Back in the day, I got Bloods and Crips to play D&D. Now, how did this happen and what led to this event? Well, back in the day, my parents got divorced. Yes, in the infancy of my youth, I decided to go with my mother because my father was hitting me with Mike Tyson combos every time he came home. I can't pay these bills. And I was, my little body was getting destroyed. So I decided to go with the significantly less abusive option. But I was going to get rid of all my friends. I was going to get rid of all the joy I've had in this household. My nostalgia was being altered. And I didn't know what to really think about that. I asked my mother, I said, where are we going to move to? She said, I'm going to move to a place that's a little dangerous, but it's cheap. I said, oh no, Chicago. She said, no, someplace a little bit less dangerous. I said, huh? I was confused. I was thinking about dangerous cities in America, El Paso, Texas. Maybe that's where we're going to move. Nope. A place with nothing with people of my similar skin variety, Detroit, Michigan. So we moved to Detroit. And as we arrived to this location, I said, this place is horrible. I knew it was bad because a squirrel approached me, a black squirrel, mind you. It approached me and didn't back away. I ran after it and it just looked at me as if it wanted me to step up to it. I knew I was in a bad neighborhood immediately. I've never experienced a squirrel that did that. Then I saw some shoes hanging from an electric wire and I said, oh, this is horrible. This is evil. Where are we? Are we in Africa? This is horrible. This is modern day Africa. This is distraught. I didn't know what was going on. Now I had an issue because I realized there was a few people walking around in all red. I said, I don't know that color gradient. That's the color gradient of my enemy because back in the day, I was a member of the blue team. So I said to myself, mother, how much is the rent in this location? She said a number that I will never forget. She said $300. My chest sunk. I said, 300? Oh, $300? She said, yeah, it's $300 here. What's wrong? It's really cheap. Yeah, that's bad. I had been looking outside the window and I saw people running around in red, throwing up bloods and doing crazy. I said, oh no, this is bad. I'm going to get gimple gum. They're going to walk outside and they're going to hit me with the 10-way special. I'm done. I'm about to get chopped. This is over with. I had to think of a plan to concoct a strategy in order for me to not get annihilated because my mother was obviously going to get harmed because by all means, I was telling the French word for yes with a D at the end, and that's not going to happen. I was got to make sure that I had my stuff up, and when I saw those shoes, I knew that I had to be the dominant force in this area. So during my days in my youth when I was taking copper from houses and curb stomping people, I naturally thought to myself, okay, what could I possibly do to make things safe? So I concocted a plan. I was riding my bike one day to the gas station. It was a Circle K, and I was minding my black business. And the Circle K had a gas station attached to it. So I see a guy who I've been selling to regularly. At this point, I'm pretty much established in neighborhoods. And I say, hey man, can you take me to the VL? He said, huh? Vice Lord? Yeah, take me to the Vice Lord. He said, no, I can't do that. I said, please, man. He said, why would I do that? I said, my good gentleman, I have a quandary. What if I got us all to come together for perhaps a tea time or a party of some sort, maybe at my house, my location, and we all come together? He looks me right now and says, it's your funeral, man. I said, don't worry, I have a plan. I did not have a plan, mind you. I just thought that I could talk to people, have conversation. I thought I could talk no jutsu. I've been watching a little bit of Naruto, and that got inside of my skull, so I'm a little bit stupid. My brain is leaking out of my ears. I got as much brain as I got earwax. So I ride up. He immediately says, oh, I know you. I had sold to him before. He knows my prowess when it comes to selling that good green. He knows what I'm going to have. And he said, you got that gang green? I said, no, I don't have that Powerpuff Girls villain on me right now. Don't worry about it. But I need some help. I see, I'm trying to get you guys to make it safer for me in my neighborhood. So I thought you guys would come on over and I get a few of my friends and we'd have a talk about what we can do to make sure that, I'm safe. He said, oh, I mean, you know what? Cool. I'll do it for you. I said, really? He said, yeah. Now, I was riding my bike home all joyful, and the person that came with me was riding on the pegs on my bike, and I thought to myself, wait a minute. What if he's gathering us all together so that he could slay us? Oh my God. I might have sacrificed the lives of my comrades just because I wanted to be safe. I didn't even consider that. He may be a 10th level intellect, a 4th dimensional plane genius. I didn't even consider that possibility. My brain was going 1,000 calculations per second thinking to myself, oh my God, I could get goompled. I can get schlimpied. I can get glomped. That's going to mess up my week. Oh my goodness. So I'm at home contemplating, thinking to myself, my mother says, are you okay? I said, don't worry, I have a gun, I'm safe. She says, what? I said, nothing. Anyways, I'm looking around thinking to myself, man. I said, Mom, what time you go to work? She had been working very copious hours. She had been working so much because she was taking care of a bunch of things I didn't know about. And by that, I mean she was taking care of a man who she was dating because the man was broke and she just wanted some boogop. She wanted that Long John Silver. She wanted that legless lizard. And I had to hear that every night. You know how horrifying it is to hear your mom getting gipplegom to getting her shoople teams? It was horrifying, but I had to deal with it. So I'm thinking to myself, what can I possibly do? So they come over and they're all angry and and vitriolic and mad at each other. And it's horrifying. It's bad. But before they came over, I was in school. And I met a guy, we're going to call him Mr. Ball. Mr. Ball is a kid I had been bullying the entire time. Because I was a bully. I ain't going to lie to nobody. You Naruto ran through the hallways, didn't wear deodorant, you getting smacked in the back of the head. That's really how it operated. So I thought to myself, hey, what do you nerd dudes be doing after school? Because they had a club. I didn't know what they were doing. They all seemed happy. I wondered what's going on. I knew they didn't like each other all that much because a lot of people, they were all passing around basically 2 girls in the entire group. And he said, we like to play D&D. I said, D&D? Dick and Destruction? What's D&D? I didn't know what it was. I had no clue what D&D could possibly be. I'd never heard of it before. He said, oh, that's Dungeons and Dragons. We play 4th edition. I said, what? He said, well, 4th edition is when he started explaining all this nerd stuff. I said, I don't know what this is, but show me what it is. He said, really? But you were just bullying me. I said, show me what it is for I'll bully you worse. Because I was just trying to figure out what was going on. So I popped in a nerd area. It smelled like hot ass and goddamn. It smelled like a Super Smash Brothers convention. It smelled horrifying there. I said, hoo-wee. You guys live like this? This is horrible. And they started to show me all the dragons, the mechanism. They showed me what a beholder was. They showed me about the dice. I said, I shoot dice every day. This is amazing. So I was super excited. I didn't know what was happening here. I looked around and saw the coalescence of how they operate. I said, okay, I think I got it. So he let me take home one of the books. And I was reading it and stuff of that variety. I was seeing all the things and all the rules. And I said, I got it. I understand. I figured out what was going on. So now we get back to where they arrive at my house. As soon as they enter my house, they're all cool, all wearing, sporting their team colors. And immediately, I can see they have guns on them. I can see the iron, or maybe they're just happy to see me. I don't know which one yet, but I know it's dangerous either or. So I'm really, really panicked. I'm stressed out. I'm having a little bit of a panic attack. My chest is sinking. And immediately have an argument saying, hey, you killed RJ. And I'm like, oh no. RJ was on the news. Oh, this is all bad. I can tell they're about to shoot each other. But then I said, before everything got escalated, I knew they were about to pull out their guns. I could feel it. You ever get that 6th sense? I said, you guys want some grilled cheese and tomato soup with some apple juice? They said, huh? I said, I got a lot of grilled cheese here, man. I could make it some grilled cheese. And they're obviously hungry because they're destitute. They live in the slums of Detroit. They haven't had a good home-cooked meal in eons. They heard that and said, you know what, I could use a meal. Perhaps I could have something in my tummy. They tightened up. They said, all right, I'll have a meal. I said, I'll make the food. We're going to go to the basement because in our basement, we had a little kitchen. We had a stove in the basement. So I'm making the food, getting them all ready, and they eat some food. I said, all right, guys, I think we should all play D&D and talk about our issues. And they said, D&D? They didn't know what D&D was. One dude knew what it was. He said, the nerd game? I said, yeah. He said, oh, you a nerd too? I said, a little bit, but listen, we can play this. And I started talking to them, trying to convince them. They said, all right, we'll give it a chance. First session happens. And oh my God, they hated every second of it. They started arguing with each other. They got mad at each other. One dude had loaded dice. He just had dice on him. He just had the dice on. He had loaded dice. He was getting good rolls. I was like, this is ridiculous. Where'd you get a loaded nat 20? Where'd you get a loaded dodecahedron? Where'd you get that? He said, I just had it on me. You can't, no one just has that on them. That's ridiculous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. This is absurd. He said, I felt like this was going to happen. There's no way you knew this was going to happen. This is absurd. There's no universe in which you could have possibly saw into the future and had this mindset going into this situation. This is the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my entire life. He said, I just had it. So they all say, well, this sucks, but we'll give it another shot later. So they thought it was too nerdy and they didn't like the dragons and the elves and all this other stuff because I wasn't good at explaining. So I go back to Mr. Ball. I said, Mr. Ball, you got to help me out, man. I didn't bully him all that day. He said, what's wrong, buddy? I said, we ain't. Okay, buddy. Yeah, we buddies. Can you explain how can I make D&D but less nerdy? He said, you're looking for a homebrew. Who? A homebrew. You're looking for a homebrew. I don't know what that is, man. I have no idea what that could possibly be. He said, well, a homebrew is a D&D campaign where you have your own specialized rules. It's basically a makeshift game where you make your own game and it's going to make things a lot better. I said, okay, I'm here with this. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm putting it inside of my pocket and tossing it to the people in the community. I want to see how you make a homebrew. So he teaches me how to make a homebrew. We end up concocting an idea. We spent the whole day working on a homebrew, at least the base idea, the template summary, at least to get the starting towns and stuff of a homebrew from Detroit to Canada. So I take this idea back to the people. They all gather up back in my household, back when my mom is at work, and they installed my house immediately. They said, how much is this house at? 300? They said, 300? Oh, that's nothing. And they're installing my household. And we go back to the basement. This homebrew works significantly better. We have different races of people. One dude's a street pharmacist. Other person He's having a good time. He's a jawbreaker, which is just a regular guy, but his hands are significantly stronger. And he gets a +5 to his unarmed rolls when he does combat and damage. We're having a good time with this entire thing. And they toss out the dice, and they all have their own dice. They say, we got our own dice. We know we're gonna need dice. I know we're gonna need some. I already stolen a bunch of dice from the library. I said, oh, my bad. I stole a bunch of dice. So there's a bunch of dice everywhere for no reason. And we just have the greatest time of all time. Now, I do want to point this out. It did not start off good. Second session, technically, they were all fighting each other, attacking each other. They were asking me, hey, DM, man, can I fight him? I want to take him out to the back. I said, you can take him out to the back, but you got to roll for it. If you get above a 12, you can roll for it. He said, okay. Boy rolled a 13. I said, well, it looks like you guys are fighting. Had a combat, ruined each other's half health, understood camaraderie, and they got so deeply into it because they were describing their own actions and situations. They said, I throw a right hook and then I smash his jaw and his teeth fall out. Okay, well, I'm a street pharmacist, so I sold that tooth and I actually get some drugs and I give you the drugs. And then you take the drugs, you get a little high. He said, and then you get a little bit loopy with the fight. He said, what kind of drugs is it? Oh, it's that good. He said, how I know you got that good? He said, you know me. He said, I don't know you. I don't even like you. He said, but you know my character. We got backstory together. We got beef. We were rivals, you know, like Goku and Vegeta. He said, Goku and Vegeta already know what it is. So they're talking, having this conversation. I said, wow, they really are role playing right in front of me. This is beautiful. This is the best thing I've ever seen. It was so chaotic and spastic. After all these sessions, they discovered they got to stop hurting each other. One specific instance I remember, and it's my favorite instance the entire time, is they got pulled over in a bus operation because they were going undercover so they could get more information to figure out how to get under the bridge so they couldn't take the high level bridge. They had to take another bridge to get over through to get under to Canada. And they said, okay, so how do we do this? And they got caught. They got busted by the cops. So they said, can I seduce the cops? They all looked at the dude and said, bro, that's fruity, bro. That's fruity. That's just gay. He said, yeah, that's gay. But think about this. My character is a bard and he got his mixtape on him. So when you think about that, the cop should be able to get enticed. He said, you could just be his friend. Yeah, but I'm trying to get his money because if we seduce the cop, he gonna think I love him, and then I'm gonna be able to mess up his life. Then I can take his wife with him too. Then I have two people. I can have him watch me in the chair in the corner, and that's gonna be good. Everybody said they didn't think about the chair. That's good. Every hotel got the chair. They start doing the linguistics of how every hotel has this chair in the corner. And I said, okay, well, yeah, you got. If you roll a 12, you can persuade him to not get you on the drug bust operation. He says, I'll roll a 12. And then they all ended up passing the cop around. The cop was the community bicycle, essentially. It was ridiculous. I was so in love with what they were doing. It took about 26 sessions for them to do this. And as it went on, as it kept going, they became more in love with the game. They became more intricate. They expanded the characters' backstories. They talked to each other. And at some point, I don't know when it happened, they stopped doing most gang activity. There was no violence, less shootings. I was a little bit confused. I was thinking to myself, a lot less stuff on the news going on here. That's because nobody was organizing any violence or raids or fights because they were coming to my house in order to have a good time. That's it. That's all they were doing. It was really ridiculous, at least in the area that I was in. It was so absurd. And at first they thought the game was wildly childish and completely stupid. But over time they realized their gang activities were the childish aspects, and it was dumb. They hated it. Now, what happened is we finished the first campaign. We finished it. We got to Canada. Everything was good. We had the do-rag wizards. We had the street pharmacists all fighting each other. The last person, they got destroyed because they reached level 20, which is basically a cap in D&D. And being level 20 in D&D, you're basically a god. So I had learned so much about DMing and learning things that they were interested in doing another campaign. But between the campaign sessions, what had happened was one of the people, they ended up having to do about 6 months in jail for other charges they had because they got caught. So they ended up going to prison, jail, all that jazz and all that stuff. They ended up going to prison. They taught the prisoners D&D. They taught the people in the prison how to play D&D. They had makeshift dice and all this other stuff, and they had people smuggling stuff in. It was interesting. It was very interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. And even nowadays, it's a community building exercise in prisons where they play D&D. He brought it to them, didn't even knowing that it was already a program, but he brought it to them. It was outstanding. It was beautiful to see that because it inspires imagination. And when you're stuck with those four walls and cells and you're not having a good time, you're stuck just doing the yard and trying not to drop the soap and whoop, slippery, slippery. You need something to get your mind stimulated. So he ended up bringing it there. And after he got his tenure, we ended up doing another campaign. I said, I have a beautiful idea for something. We all like Candyland, right? They said, what? I said, Candyland. We did an entire campaign again with Candyland. Now, this is the biggest accomplishment in my entire life because you know how hard it is to finish a D&D campaign? Do you know how extremely difficult it is to finish a campaign of D&D? That is the hardest task on the planet. After this whole fiasco and all this stuff happened, they all went their separate ways and they said, hey, man, we should all hang out again. So after about 3 months of us not seeing each other, things were all dying down. We went to a Renaissance Festival. There's a Renaissance Festival in Holly, Michigan. Holly, Michigan is about an hour, 30-minute drive from Detroit. We all got together and went to Holly, Michigan. Imagine seeing a bunch of dudes, do-rags, white beaters, and sweats with elf ears, just eating a hot pickle in the sun, having a good time, drinking beer, having the time of their life. And it was beautiful. I was dressed as a jester. And they said I look like a nerd. They start insulting people. One dude met a girl, insulted her, and got her number. It was ridiculous because I don't know if you know this. Back in the day, there weren't that many black people at Renaissance festivals. We were a piece of pepper and a collage of salt. Is basically what we were. We stood out like a sore thumb. It was ridiculous, but it was beautiful, and we all coalesced with that. And that's basically what happened. Now, I made this video to see if any of them would reach out to me because I miss them. I miss you. Man, I miss you deeply. Tucci, I miss you so much. I miss you guys a lot. If you guys want to reach out to me, please comment or message me on Discord or something of that variety. I would love to hang out with you guys again. Maybe we can get another campaign going. That'd be beautiful. We can get another campaign going. I would love to DM again and hang out with you guys. That'd be beautiful. Now, I've heard people have questions, so in this section, I'm just going to answer the questions that people commonly have. I didn't know there was Bloods and Crips outside of LA. Bloods and Crips exist all over America. They exist all over America. They have always existed all over America. They started in LA, but outside of that, they have always existed outside of that. Why didn't they take each other's lives? Aren't all black people ignorant? Is a question I usually get. No. If you talk to somebody and have good conversation and you are cohesive and convincing, you can pretty much convince anybody. I'm extremely charismatic when I speak, and I'm able to talk to most people, despite the fact even if they hate me. I have spoken to people in Knock'em-Stiff, Ohio. If you don't know where Knock'em-Stiff is, it's a little off center from Columbus. In that place, they literally have the Triple K clan out there. They are out there, and they have rallies, and it's ridiculous. And I was out there singing Ain't No Rest for the Wicked by Cage the Elephant at a karaoke bar, and they enjoy my presence. That's what happens. That's just what it is. You can convince people that hate you to talk to you if you meet them in common ground. It's how people work. It's how we've always operated as humans. Now, if you have any other questions, I'm sure you have other questions. How did you do that? I already told you, expressed to you. I was already selling a French word for yes and other illicit substances and taking copper from houses. I was already part of the blue team. What's that, Crips? I was out there doing that. That's what I was doing. But that's what it was. Now, if anybody has any other questions, you're more than welcome to this quandary. Now, I had released the previous version of this video with significantly less detail. And that was because I was still using that as a rallying call to get my friends to talk to me. That video didn't work. So this is me trying again. This is the updated version because there's a bunch of sound issues with the other video. Audio cut out was a bit bad, but this is more interesting and more doing that. Now, if you're curious how my mom feels about everything, she was busy getting goopel-gomped by a man that obviously was abusing her. And that man he's the father of my little brother Atticus. So that was a whole thing there. That's the man that is the father of Atticus. Me and Atticus is my little nonverbal autistic brother. Just had a GoFundMe for him recently. If you want to donate more to that GoFundMe, you're more than welcome to. I'll put it in the top comment. It reached its goal, but if you ever want to give anything extra, you're more than welcome to. Would appreciate that. But that's basically all I got to say about that. Sorry if I'm putting on a dialect, speaking as if I am of a black vernacular. Whenever I recount this story, it reminds me of how I spoke when I was younger. So there goes that. That's what it is. This is essentially what you call a black accent, and it's the most comfortable way I feel speaking most of the time. But oftentimes I don't do it if I'm not around other black people because, I don't know, just feels better to code switch when you're around niggas. I don't know how to tell you that. It's just how I feel. Anyways, thank you guys so much for checking out the video. If you guys saw the old version, this is the updated version. If you like the story and stuff of that variety, if you enjoy my life, this is a real story. Sadly, this happened. I was scared the entire time. I peed myself one session because I was so scared. I did. It made my week bad. I peed myself one session. I don't know what that was about. I was just scared. I almost pooped myself. It was bad. It was bad. Thank you guys so much. I'm out. Peace. Bye.
I'm your nigga night, be my loyal. Ooh, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. Ooh, I love the ride when you're free.